July 26th was National Disability Independence Day, which commemorates the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's the law that prohibits discrimination against those with disabilities. And that segment of the population, like so many others, has become more and more reliant on the role that digital has in their lives. Mark Pound is CEO of CurbCutOS, a company looking to make the digital world more accessible to those with disabilities. Mark, great to have you with us. Thanks for a few moments.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So what was it that had you interested to make that try and make that impact around digital and the world of people with disabilities?
It starts with a personal story, and I'll try to encapsulate that as quick as possible. Back in high school on the football field, I was a quadriplegic, and fortunately, I was able to recover and come off of the field. Fast forward in life, I then incurred a massive car accident where the witnesses thought we were dead. Fast forward from there, from multiple nerve damages, spine damages, I basically lost a decade of my life to chronic pain and woke up one day and made the decision that I need to own it and get my life back. During that decade, I learned what it was like to fight for having a disabled body, per se. I have an invisible disability, as they say, and realizing that, hey, I have equal rights to this life to where I can enjoy the journey just as much as anybody else. So I got to see it from that side and the struggles that are involved. And it made me realize that anybody with a disability, even more so those who incur a disability later in life, which is actually the majority out there, they become disadvantaged. And that shouldn't be the case. Everybody should be able to enjoy this journey.
So how do you approach then trying to close that gap a little bit in the work you're doing with CurbCut?
What we do is we like to call it true accessibility or digital accessibility, where we actually go into the code for websites and apps, and we convert documents, and we work with design systems and color contrast, all of those elements that are involved in the digital world. And we do so in a manner to where anybody with a disability or without a disability can interact with the website, and there's no differences on that. It's just a matter of how you're accessing the website. So that's what we do from that capacity.
How much of a thought is there by the companies that are making code and making all of these different digital elements about the community of the disabled and making sure that they are factoring them in when they are thinking about build out of all of these different components?
If you're asking me about the digital accessibility provider space or that industry in general, unfortunately, there's a dichotomy to that. And I operate on honesty, and from that perspective, it's some are out to just make a buck, and it's a break fix model to where we know if we're going to come in and audit and remediate something that you're not going to do anything, and that's our business model. We can come back and fix it again for you, as opposed to let's do it right. Let's keep the end user in mind and make sure they have an optimal experience, but at the same time, get that company to understand that the disability market in general is 1 billion people with over $1 trillion in spending power that is widely ignored and considered too small by many. And that's how we approach it from that perspective. And that's the reason why we like to do what we call true accessibility, doing it in a manner to where we audit, remediate, get the company to understand to where then it goes into maintenance, and your costs actually go down over time as opposed to going up.
What are seemingly the biggest problems out there for accessibility to the internet for those with a disability?
I would say the biggest is, to this day, the latest study that was done, there's a statistic, 96.1 of digital assets are not compliant And that's across all types of businesses, even government and education. That's a huge hurdle to overcome.
Wow.
There's only been a 1.8% improvement in 2 years.
So for a company to make their website or their app more disability friendly, what's that process like? What's the investment like for companies?
Well, and there's, we got to overcome a fallacy in the world of the stakeholders being companies. And companies think it's 100% game. It's not 100% game. It never will be 100%. They also think that you have to be able to then come into this and we get it fixed, we're done. Unfortunately, in the digital world, nothing ever stays the same over a period of time. So when you're looking at this, and how we like to approach this is we go to the company and say, look, what's your budget KPIs and objectives this year for this? Okay, great. Now, we know what we need to work with this year. What are your digital assets? Of those digital assets, which ones are the most trafficked? Okay, good. Based on your budget, based on your digital assets, this is where we go, and we start with an audit, and then from that audit, we parse that audit out and then address the high severity issues first, and then put a plan together for subsequent years.
I would think that being able to have that accessibility, it makes those with disabilities feel much more comfortable, much more, kind of in tune with what is going on a variety of different fronts, that they don't feel left out. Fair to say?
Very fair to say. And for a couple examples, excuse me, a couple good examples are, let's look at the IRS. If you took the population of people with disabilities into mind, the IRS sends out notices. Well, if they're blind and that's their disability, they're already disadvantaged, and the IRS doesn't care. Mm-hmm. If they're dealing with health care and they can't hear, or they're blind and they don't have a family or a friend member there with them, they're reliant on somebody else. Whether it's right or wrong, they don't know.
And so wow, that's a staggering example right there, because, and look, we're using that as an example. We're at a time where the IRS is looking to try and revamp its operations. It makes you wonder whether or not that this is even a consideration as they look to do all of these revamps moving forward.
100%. And it is a known thing that one of the regulations is out by the government. It's called Section 508. Section 508 is a regulation that the government requires people to have from a digital accessibility standpoint in order to do business with the government. But at the same time, government at large is not compliant.
What then does real digital accessibility look like, do you think?
It's a new mindset. It's a line item in your spreadsheet. It is an understanding that this is here to stay, and it's not just something to where it's a compliance element and it's a legal requirement. It should be considered an investment with an ROI, because once you start doing this, you tap into a market that is widely ignored. The other thing that we have to understand that this is not going away, because you look at generations that are coming up. They were born with digital in their hands. When they start aging, they're going to expect things to be done and be able to click and use things even when their vision starts to deteriorate. And if those companies are not addressing that, they're already going to be behind the game, and those generations will leave them immediately.
Well, and then you also have to throw in something like AI, don't you, as well, because of, all of the conversation that's going on right now and the expectation that businesses are going to be including AI in that. How much does AI factor in when you're thinking about these advancements that we need to see in the years ahead?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that is Pandora's box. AI, albeit let's truly consider it's the buzzword right now. But in reality, if we were to peel the onion back, what is really going on with it? What is really going on with it? It's more of a buzzword. It's caused a lot of misdirection, misinformation, and confusion. And I'm not a pessimist from this. I'm a realist, and that there are people going to be losing a lot of money because what people say is AI is not AI. Now, where AI can come in right now is, for example, facial recognition, where if someone has partial paralysis in their face and it has to be able to understand that. Voice recognition, where it can start learning the different nuances in people's voices. Content understanding for wider audiences. Where the misperception is, in the world of digital accessibility, there's automated, not AI, automated scanners, plus manual has to be done. We have to understand those data sets before we can start utilizing AI to its full extent. It has to be able to learn from those multiple variables first.
You also have talked about how the barriers kind of can impact employment as well for those that are disabled. How so?
Well, when you look at, digital accessibility is not just websites and apps and things like that. So when you're hired in the workplace, you're already disadvantaged because you have a disability. Once you get in the door and then you're put to work, well, what about access to your workstation? What about human resources and how they address those elements? And this isn't something to where it's going to be Mount Everest that a company has to climb. All they got to do is start the process and start embracing this with the understanding it's a journey. It's not something that has to be done tomorrow, but we have to start.
Does the push towards work from home, remote work, benefit disability, people with disabilities when you're thinking about the workplace, or does it hinder it more?
From my perspective and to what I understand to this day, I would have to say it's going to be helpful because depending on the type of disability, those people will have more of the assistive technologies already in their house as opposed to an employer who then has to get the assistive technologies for their workstations if they have to go somewhere. So from that perspective, I would say they would be better off because then they have their home office, they can go to it, they're familiar with it, and they can get to work and be productive.
How confident are you that a lot of these issues that we brought up in this interview will be able to be addressed in the next several years?
That's a tough question. Am I extremely confident? No, I'm not. The trend in the industry, for example, last year, there's a 150% increase in searches on digital accessibility. However, when you look at the statistics, 1.8% improvement in 2 years. There was another statistic that came out recently. Just on home pages alone of just websites, there was only a 0.5% improvement over the course of 1 year. So if you take those statistics into mind and then you project those forward, we have a tremendous amount of work that has to be done. And in order to do that, more and more people have to come together, and it needs to have better education out there too about how this occurs and what needs to happen.
Mark, thanks very much for your time today. Wish you all the best in the work that you're doing, and hopefully you're able to, make help make significant improvements in this area as you move forward.
Thank you. Yeah, we're working on it every day. That's what it takes.
Thank you, Mark. All the best to you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Mark Pound, who is the CEO of CurbCutOS.